Lily Morgan, 27 years old, her black hair tangled and wild from the cold Atlantic wind, was on her knees in the wet sand of Portland, Maine, chasing a worn-out book called The Brave Little Sparrow, as if she were on a life-or-death rescue mission. "Come back here," she shouted at the book, which was sliding down the sand toward the crashing waves with surprising speed for something without legs. "I did not survive 10 years of hell just to lose you now." The next wave rolled in. Lily threw herself forward, fingers slipping. The book kept sliding. "You have got to be kidding me," Lily muttered, spitting sand out of her mouth as she stumbled back up. "Seriously, you have been with me since Dad died, and now you decide to go surfing." She ran again, tripped over her own tiny suitcase. Of course she had left it right in the way, rolled through the sand like a human tumbleweed, and finally managed to touch the edge of the book cover with her fingertips. The tide pulled. Lily pulled back. "No!" she screamed, gripping the book with both hands as the freezing water soaked through her dress up to her waist. "You are not leaving me. You are the only thing I have left of him, the only proof he ever loved me." And it was in that exact moment, this absolutely ridiculous moment, with Lily drenched to her waist, black hair plastered to her face, sand stuck in places she would rather not think about, old scars on her back hidden beneath her soaked dress, clinging to a children's book like it was the last lifeboat on the Titanic, that a firm, strong, and definitely dry hand grabbed the book along with hers. Lily froze, slowly lifted her eyes, and met the coldest, most dangerous, and most impossibly handsome gaze she had ever seen in her life. Gray eyes like winter steel, a faint scar running from his temple down to his jaw, dark hair slightly messed by the wind, and an expression that hovered somewhere between, "I am concerned and I am deciding whether to laugh or walk away." The man looked at the book, then at her, and something flickered in those frozen eyes. Something that looked almost like pain. For a fleeting second, Marcus felt a strange pull in his chest, a sense of recognition he couldn't explain, as if her broken soul was calling out to his. "Keep it safe," he said, his deep voice low and rough. "Some things, once lost, can never be found again." And before Lily could ask who he was, thank him properly, or even wipe the sand off her nose, he turned and walked down the beach, disappearing like a shadow. Lily stood there, dripping seawater, clutching the book to her chest, heart pounding for reasons she did not understand. "What just happened?" she whispered to the little sparrow on the cover. The sparrow, of course, did not answer, but if it could, it probably would have said, "You just met the most dangerous man on the East Coast, and your life will never be the same." If this story touched your heart, hit the like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Now, let us find out what happens when Lily discovers that the mysterious stranger on the beach is the same man she has been sold to. 24 hours earlier, the house at number 72 on Crescent Street in Portland had once been the place where Lily believed happiness would last forever, and she still remembered with perfect clarity those Sunday mornings when her father, Thomas Morgan, stood in the kitchen making pancakes, the scent of butter and honey drifting through the rooms, his laughter ringing out each time. Lily ran down the stairs, with her hair tousled from sleeping in, and he would lift her up, spin her once, then set her down on a chair and say, "My little princess, how many pancakes do you want today?" And Lily would always answer, "A million pancakes." And her father would laugh, pretend to be serious, and say, "All right then, but you will have to help me wash a million dishes." Those were the days when Lily did not yet know how cruel the world could be. The days before Victoria appeared. Her father met Victoria when Lily was 14, 2 years after her biological mother had died of cancer. Victoria was beautiful, gentle, and knew exactly how to say the things her father wanted to hear. And she came with a young daughter named Tiffany, 3 years younger than Lily. At first everything seemed fine. Victoria smiled at Lily, cooked for the family, even bought her birthday presents, but Lily began to sense that something was wrong when she realized Victoria was only kind when her father was present, because whenever Thomas turned his back, the look Victoria gave Lily was icy cold, as if Lily were an insect she was waiting for the chance to crush. Lily told her father, but he only laughed and said, "My girl Victoria just needs time. She will love you the way I love you." Thomas believed in the goodness of people, and that was what Lily loved most about him, and also what killed him. 10 years earlier, on a rainy night in November, Lily's father had been driving home from a business trip. The police said it was an accident, that the car lost control on the wet road and plunged down a ravine. But Lily had seen the last message on her father's phone before the police confiscated it as evidence, a message from Victoria with only one line, "I need to talk to you about the will." Lily had no proof, only her intuition and a pain she could not name. Her father's funeral took place in the rain. Just like the day he died, Victoria cried loudly and theatrically, and everyone comforted her. No one looked at Lily, the only biological daughter, standing alone at the corner of the cemetery, clutching the book her father had given her, The Brave Little Sparrow, her tears unable to fall because she had cried herself dry the night before. Immediately after the funeral, when the last guests had left, Victoria changed completely. She summoned Lily into the living room, sat in the chair where her father used to sit, and said in a flat, icy voice, "Your father is dead. Do not expect me to raise you like a princess anymore. From now on you will live in the basement, and you will work to pay for your food and clothes." Lily was so shocked she could not speak. She looked at Tiffany standing behind Victoria, and for the first time she saw her stepsister smile, a cruel smile she had never seen before. That night Lily was dragged down to the basement, a pitch-dark room with no windows, only a dim bulb hanging from the ceiling and a filthy old mattress on the freezing concrete floor. She clutched the book to her chest, curled up in the darkness, and whispered to the sparrow on the cover, "Daddy, where are you? Why did you leave me alone?" The sparrow did not answer. And from that night on, Lily's life became hell, a hell that lasted for 10 years. 10 years, 3,650 days. Each day so identical that Lily could no longer tell yesterday from today. She woke at 4 o'clock in the morning while the entire house was still submerged in darkness. While Victoria and Tiffany were sleeping on their soft beds upstairs, Lily climbed up from the basement and began her work like an emotionless machine, mopping floors, doing laundry, ironing clothes, cooking breakfast, cleaning the kitchen, wiping windows, scrubbing toilets, washing bedsheets, hanging laundry, folding clothes, cooking lunch, washing dishes, dusting, vacuuming, cooking dinner, setting the table, washing dishes again, and hundreds of other chores Victoria invented to torment her. Lily worked 18 hours a day, sometimes more if Victoria was dissatisfied, and she was only allowed to rest when the house fell completely silent at 11 at night. Her basement room had not changed in 10 years, still 4 gray concrete walls, a dim light bulb hanging from the ceiling that Lily had to stand on her toes to reach the switch, a flattened old mattress reeking of dampness, and a plastic bucket in the corner for her to relieve herself at night, because Victoria locked the basement door from the outside. There were no windows, no sunlight, no wind. Lily lived like a prisoner in solitary confinement, seeing the sky only when she climbed upstairs to work. Victoria beat her, not occasionally but often, whenever she was angry, whenever she lost at gambling, whenever she saw Lily's face and was reminded that her husband's biological daughter still existed in this house. She used a leather belt with a heavy metal buckle, striking Lily's back until her skin split open and blood soaked through her clothes. Lily was not allowed to cry because if she cried, Victoria would beat her more. Lily was not allowed to cry out in pain because if she did, Victoria would lock her in the basement for 3 days without food. Scars layered upon scars, old and new, intertwined across her thin back, like a map of hell. Tiffany was different. Her stepsister did not beat her, but she had subtler cruelties. Tiffany poured hot coffee onto Lily's hand and told Victoria that Lily had spilled it herself. Tiffany cut Lily's hair while she slept, hacking it uneven like it had been chewed by a dog, then laughed when Lily saw herself in the mirror. Tiffany tore Lily's books, broke her things, hid her only pair of shoes in the trash, and constantly said, "You are just a servant. You do not deserve anything." But there was one thing Tiffany could never touch, because Lily hid it too well. The book, The Brave Little Sparrow. Lily kept it in a tin box beneath the mattress, wrapped in an old cloth, hidden like her last treasure. And in truth, that was exactly what it was. Every night, when the basement sank into darkness and the whole house slept, Lily took the book out, pressed it to her chest, and whispered to the sparrow on the cover as if speaking to her father. "Today I was beaten for breaking a plate, but I did not cry. Dad, I am strong. Today I was starved, but it is all right. I am used to it. Today Tiffany cut my hair, but it will grow back. Dad, I miss you." Inside the book, tucked between page 23 and page 24, was a letter. Her father's letter, handwritten on yellowed paper, the ink faded but still readable. He had given it to Lily before his final business trip and said, "My daughter, read this when you feel the loneliest." But Lily had never opened it. She was afraid that once she read it, there would be nothing left to wait for. Afraid that her father's last words would become a true farewell. Afraid that she would lose the only reason she had to keep living. 10 years passed, and Lily never stepped outside the house even once. She had no friends, no phone, no internet, No contact with the outside world. She was 27 years old but had never gone to college, never worked at something she loved, never been loved. Lily did not know what she was living for, but every night she opened the book, looked at her father's handwriting on the unopened letter, and told herself, just survive tomorrow. Just one more day. That night began like every other night, with Lily kneeling to scrub the kitchen floor, while Victoria sat on the sofa, staring at her phone. Yet something felt different. Lily sensed it. The air in the house was heavier than usual. Victoria kept checking her phone with a strained expression, and Tiffany hid in her room, too afraid to come downstairs. Lily did not know that Victoria had been addicted to online gambling for 3 years, did not know that she had lost all of her husband's life insurance money, lost all of the savings, lost everything she could get from selling the furniture in the house, and was now drowning in a massive debt she could not repay, $2 million. Lily also did not know that Victoria's creditor was not a bank or an ordinary finance company, but the Blackwood family, one of the most powerful mafia organizations on the east coast of the United States, and they did not tolerate unpaid debts. At exactly 10 o'clock at night, Victoria's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, her face drained of color, her hand trembling as she answered. Lily kept scrubbing the floor, but she heard every word. Mrs. Morgan? The man's voice on the other end was cold as steel. You have 24 hours to pay $2 million. Otherwise your family will disappear. I believe you understand what I mean, Victoria stammered, begging for more time, but the man only let out a mocking laugh and hung up. She sat there like a woman who had lost her soul, her face deathly pale, her hand still clutching the phone as it shook uncontrollably. Lily pretended she had heard nothing and kept scrubbing the floor, yet inside her a small, fragile spark of hope flickered. Maybe Victoria would be arrested. Maybe she would finally be free. Maybe this hell would at last come to an end. But Lily was wrong. Victoria was not the kind of woman who accepted defeat. She sat there thinking, her eyes fixed on empty space, until that gaze settled on Lily. A chill ran down Lily's spine as Victoria looked at her. That look was different from all the others. Not hatred, not contempt, but calculation. As if she were examining a piece of merchandise and assessing how much it might be worth, Victoria picked up her phone and made another call. I have something to repay the debt, she said, her voice suddenly unnervingly calm. I have a daughter, 27 years old, still a virgin, obedient, knows how to do housework. I hear your boss is looking for a wife. There was silence for a moment. Then the man on the other end asked something. Victoria glanced at Lily and replied, My biological child. She is willing. She wants to help the family. She will do whatever your boss wants. Another pause. Then Victoria smiled. The first smile she had worn all day. All right. She will come tomorrow. Send me the address. She hung up, turned to Lily, and said in a flat, emotionless voice, You will go to Portland tomorrow. Meet a man. Do everything he tells you. This is the only way you can repay this family for feeding and housing you for 10 years. Lily did not understand. She opened her mouth to ask, but Victoria had already turned away, tossing back one last sentence. Pack your things into a small suitcase. You can only take what you own, and do not even think about bringing that tattered book. Lily's heart felt as if it were being crushed. She did not care where she was going, whom she would meet, or what she would have to do, but she could not leave the book behind. That night, Lily lay in the basement, clutching the book to her chest, and for the first time in 10 years she cried. She cried not from fear, but from the realization that Victoria had just sold her like a piece of property, and she did not even know what price had been put on her life. The next morning, Victoria shoved Lily out the door with a tiny suitcase holding a few worn clothes. Lily hid the book at the bottom of the suitcase. Victoria did not check. The address is in your pocket, she said. Take the bus to Portland. Go by yourself. Do not embarrass me. There was no goodbye, no backward glance. Victoria closed the door, and Lily stood alone on the empty street at 6 o'clock in the morning, with her suitcase, her book, and a future utterly unknown. The bus pulled away under Portland's gray dawn. Lily sat in the last row, holding the book against her chest, staring out the window, wondering where she was going, whom she would meet, and what fate awaited her ahead. She did not know she had just been sold like a commodity. She did not know that the man who bought her was the head of the most dangerous mafia family on the East Coast, and she knew least of all that this man was the one she would meet on the beach only a few hours later. Lily remained standing on the beach for several minutes after the mysterious man disappeared, seawater still dripping from her soaked dress, her arms still wrapped tightly around the book, as if it were the only thing keeping her from collapsing. "Keep it safe. There are things that once lost can never be found again." His low, husky voice continued to echo in her mind, and Lily did not understand why a stranger would say something like that, as if he understood, as if he too had once lost something precious. She shook her head, forcing herself to focus on what lay ahead. Lily pulled the piece of paper from her pocket, the address Victoria had given her scribbled in hurried handwriting, Number 1 Blackwood Road, the northern hills of Portland. She looked around, asked a passerby for directions, and began walking toward it, the wheels of her suitcase rattling against the sidewalk. 30 minutes later, Lily stood before a massive iron gate and immediately understood that she had stepped into a completely different world. The gate was at least 4 meters tall, jet black, and at its center was the emblem of a snarling wolf, its eyes seeming to stare straight into her soul. Beyond the gate stretched a stone-paved driveway leading to a huge white-gray mansion, like a castle pulled from a horror film, beautiful yet chillingly cold. Security cameras were everywhere. Lily counted at least 6 just around the gate alone, and men in black suits stood guard on both sides, their eyes sweeping over her, with indifference sharpened by vigilance. Lily swallowed hard, her heart pounding, her hand gripping the suitcase handle until her knuckles turned white. She pressed the intercom button with a trembling finger. "Who is it?" A cold female voice came through the speaker. Lily took a breath, forcing her voice to stay steady. "My name is Lily Morgan. I was sent here." The silence stretched so long Lily thought they might turn her away. Then the voice spoke again. "Oh, you are the third one. Come in." The third one. Lily did not understand what that meant, but she had no time to think, because the iron gate slowly slid open with the shriek of metal. She stepped inside, pulling her suitcase along the stone path, and the closer she drew to the mansion, the smaller she felt. The main doors opened before she could knock, and a middle-aged man appeared. He looked to be around 40. Salt and pepper hair, a stern face but not as cold as the guards outside. "Miss Morgan," he said evenly. "I am Vincent Cole, the boss's assistant. Follow me." Lily stepped inside and had to struggle not to gape. The interior of the mansion was 100 times more overwhelming than the exterior. The black marble floors gleamed so brightly she could see her reflection in them. Enormous crystal chandeliers hung from the soaring ceiling. Classical oil paintings lined the walls, and everything radiated such immense wealth that Lily felt like a stain in the middle of a palace. Yet at the same time she felt cold. Cold not from the temperature, but because this house held no warmth, no life, only hollow luxury. Vincent led her down a long, endless corridor, turned left, turned right, until they stopped before a large wooden door. He opened it and gestured for Lily to enter. The living room doors swung open, and Lily saw 2 women already seated inside, both of them looking at her as if she were an insect that had just crawled into their home. The first woman sat on a black velvet sofa, her legs crossed with effortless elegance, one hand holding a glass of red wine, the other resting on her thigh with long, slender fingers heavy with sparkling diamond rings. She wore a fitted black dress of the kind Lily had only ever seen in fashion magazines. Expensive silk shimmering beneath the chandelier light, and around her neck hung a diamond necklace as large as a little finger. Her face was sharply beautiful, a high straight nose, full red lips, and brown eyes that looked at Lily with undisguised contempt. The second woman sat opposite her, a little younger, dressed in a tight red gown that flaunted her curves, her golden hair styled into flawless waves, her face so meticulously made up, she looked as though she had stepped straight off a magazine cover. She was holding her phone, likely taking selfies. But when Lily entered, she looked up and smiled, a smile so artificial, Lily could see the scorn hiding behind it. Lily stood at the doorway, soaked from head to toe, black hair plastered to her face. The old dress Victoria had given her now smeared with sand and seawater, her worn canvas shoes soaked through and squelching, and a tiny suitcase with bent wheels. Compared to the 2 women before her, she looked like a stray cat dragged out of a sewer. The woman in black spoke first. "Do they let beggars in here now?" she said, her voice sharp as a razor as her eyes traveled over Lily from head to toe in disgust. "I thought the Blackwood family had higher standards than this," the woman in red giggled, covering her mouth with a hand tipped with bright red nails. "Oh, Vanessa, do not be so cruel. Maybe she is the new maid. Look at her suitcase, probably full of cleaning rags." The 2 of them laughed together as if they had just shared the funniest joke in the world. Lily stood still and said nothing. She was used to this, used to being humiliated, used to being treated as if she did not exist, used to cruel words passing through her like wind through leaves. 10 years with Victoria and Tiffany had taught her how to turn herself into stone, how to let words slide off without leaving a mark, or at least without showing the wounds. The woman in black, Vanessa, stood and walked toward Lily with the regal poise of a queen. "I am Vanessa Romano," she said, stressing the surname as if it were the most important thing in the world. "Daughter of the Romano family, allies of the Blackwoods for 3 generations. I was trained to become a boss's wife from the age of 12. Everything I do, the way I walk, speak, eat, even the way I hold a wine glass, is perfect. I was born to stand beside Marcus Blackwood." She stopped in front of Lily and looked down at her as if at a worm. "And you? Who are you?" Lily opened her mouth, but the woman in red cut in. "I am Crystal Hayes," she said in a falsely sweet voice. "Former Victoria's Secret model, now a familiar face in the underground high society. I know everyone, and everyone knows me. I can bring Marcus connections no one else can." Crystal stood up and joined Vanessa, and the two of them loomed before Lily like twin serpents studying their prey. "So what do you have?" Vanessa asked, her voice dripping with mockery, "besides clothes that look like they came from a trash bin and hair that has not been washed in 3 months. Crystal glanced at Lily's suitcase and snorted. What did she even bring in there? Old underwear? No, Lily said, her voice soft but steady. "Just books, books," Vanessa repeated as if the word were alien. "You brought books to a contest to become a Mafia boss's wife." She burst into laughter and Crystal laughed with her. Lily lowered her head, gripping the suitcase handle where she knew the book lay hidden inside. She was used to being treated like air, but she was not used to the feeling that she was stepping into a battle without knowing the rules. Vanessa's and Crystal's laughter was still echoing through the room when the door behind them suddenly opened. There was no warning sound, no knock, no footsteps. The door simply swung open, and a man walked in. Instantly, Vanessa and Crystal fell silent, as if someone had pressed a mute button. Both of them straightened, smoothed their dresses, fixed their hair, and put on the sweetest smiles they could manage. Lily turned her head, and her heart seemed to stop. It was him, the man from the beach, the man who had held the book together with her hand, the man with winter steel gray eyes and a faint scar running from his temple to his jaw, the man who had told her to keep it safe because there were things that once lost could never be found again. He stood there in a perfectly tailored black 3-piece suit, polished leather shoes, radiating an entirely different presence from the man she had met on the beach. On the beach he had been mysterious and strange. Here, in this room, he was dangerous. Dangerous in the way an alpha wolf is dangerous, in the way darkness is dangerous, in the way death itself is dangerous. With every step he took, the air seemed to thicken, and Lily found it hard to breathe. Marcus Blackwood stopped in the center of the room, his gray eyes sweeping slowly over each woman. When that gaze reached Lily, he paused for a single second. Only a second, as if he recognized her too, but immediately his face returned to its cold, unreadable mask. Lily stood frozen, afraid to move, afraid even to breathe too deeply. Vincent stepped in behind Marcus and stood to the side like a loyal shadow. Marcus spoke, and his voice filled the room. Low, cold, and commanding. 3 candidates, he said. 1 position, the mistress of the Blackwood family. You have 1 week to prove yourselves worthy. The winner will become my wife. The other 2 will leave. The rules are simple. Do not waste my time. Vanessa stepped forward, her smile radiant. Marcus, I have been waiting for this day since I was a little girl. I will not disappoint you. Marcus did not look at her. He only gave a slight nod and turned to leave. Crystal hurried to offer a charming smile and murmured something about being honored to be there. But Marcus was already gone. Lily stood there, her mind spinning, struggling to process what had just happened. A contest to choose a wife, mistress of the family. 1 week. She understood none of it. Victoria had only told her to come here to meet a man. No one had said anything about this. She ran out of the living room, ignoring Vanessa's and Crystal's mocking laughter behind her, and chased after Marcus down the corridor. Please wait, she called, her voice trembling. There is a mistake. I do not know why I am here. No one told me anything about any contest. Marcus stopped but did not turn around. His back was straight as a wall, and Lily felt as though she were speaking to stone. No one told you? Marcus asked, his voice devoid of emotion. No, Lily said. My stepmother only told me to come here, meet a man, do whatever he said. I do not know anything else. Marcus turned, and those gray eyes locked onto hers. Something flickered there. Lily could not tell what it was. Pity, mockery, or something else entirely. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared. Your stepmother, Marcus said slowly, each word like a nail driven in. Sold you to me to pay her debt? $2 million. You are the commodity. You are how she escaped death. You did not know. Lily felt the ground vanish beneath her feet. Sold. $2 million. Commodity. The words tore through her mind like a storm, and her knees gave out. She collapsed onto the freezing marble floor. The book rolled out of her suitcase and came to rest between her and Marcus like a silent piece of evidence. Marcus watched her fall. He did not step forward, did not offer a hand. He only stood there, looking down at her with eyes cold as ice, and said in an unmoved voice, "In this world, everything has a price, even people. You should get used to that. Vincent thinks you might be different, that you deserve a chance to fight for your fate, so I allowed you into this contest. Do not prove him wrong." Then he turned and walked away, the sound of his leather shoes echoing down the corridor until it faded completely. Lily sat on the cold stone floor, staring at the book lying a few steps away, and felt as though something had been driven straight through her chest. Victoria had sold her the way one sells an animal, an object, a piece of trash. 10 years she had endured in that house. 10 years of beatings, starvation, humiliation, and in the end she was not even worth being treated as a human being. She was only merchandise to settle a debt. Lily wanted to cry, but no tears came. For the first time in 10 years, she could not cry. The pain was too great, too deep for tears to contain. Lily did not know how long she sat on the floor. It might have been a few minutes. It might have been hours. Time no longer existed for her. The icy marble seeped through her damp dress, yet she did not feel cold. She felt nothing at all, only a vast hollow inside her chest where her heart had once been, and then a hand appeared in front of her. Lily looked up to see Vincent, the middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair who had led her into the mansion. He said nothing, simply stood there with his hand extended, waiting patiently. Lily stared at that hand for a long moment, then slowly placed her own in it and allowed him to pull her to her feet. Vincent bent down, picked up the book, brushed the dust from it gently, and handed it back to her. "Yours," he said, his voice calm, not cold like Marcus's. Lily took the book and held it to her chest as if embracing an old friend. Vincent studied her for a moment, then said, "You are not the worst person here. Be careful of the other two. They are not as simple as they look. And in this world, trust no one." Lily wanted to ask why he was kind to her, but Vincent had already turned away, motioning for her to follow. He led her up to the second floor, through long corridors lined with antique paintings and chandeliers, until they stopped before an oak door. "Your room," Vincent said. "If you need anything, press the button by the bed, and someone will come." Then he left her alone. Lily pushed the door open and had to pause for several seconds to process what she was seeing. The room was as large as the entire basement where she had lived for 10 years. A king-size bed dressed in pristine white sheets, deep blue velvet curtains, a mahogany vanity, and a large window overlooking the garden behind the mansion. It was the most beautiful room Lily had ever seen in her life. More beautiful than the room she had once had before her father died, more beautiful than anything she had ever dared to dream of. Yet she felt no comfort, only displacement, like a fish thrown onto dry land, like a bird locked inside a golden cage, and a golden cage was still a cage. Lily closed the door, locked it, then sat down in the corner, drew her knees to her chest, and hugged the book. She looked down at the cover where the little sparrow spread its fragile wings as if trying to fly into the sky, the brave little sparrow. Her father had given her this book when she was 10, on her last birthday before her mother died. "You are like this sparrow," her father had said, "small but brave. No matter how fierce the storm, you will still fly." Lily opened the book and turned to page 23, where her father's letter still lay tucked between the yellowed pages. She touched the letter, feeling his handwriting beneath her fingertips, but she did not open it. Not yet. She closed the book again, pressed it to her chest, and shut her eyes. Marcus's words echoed in her mind. "In this world, everything has a price, even people." Perhaps he was right. Lily had been sold. She was merchandise, a debt paid with flesh. But if Victoria believed she would collapse, if Marcus believed she would break, they were wrong. Lily had survived 10 years of hell, endured beatings, starvation, freezing nights in a basement, and she was still here. If she could not escape, then she would survive. If this was a war, then she would fight. She would not let anyone defeat her again. Not Victoria, not Tiffany, not Vanessa, not Crystal, and not even Marcus Blackwood. "Daddy," Lily whispered to the book, "I do not know what I am doing, but I will not fall. I promise." The next morning, Vincent knocked on Lily's door at 7 o'clock and informed her that the first trial would take place that evening. "A party," he said in the same even tone as always. The allied families of Blackwood would attend. The 3 candidates must appear, socialize, and prove themselves worthy of becoming the future mistress of the family. Evening gowns, 7 in the evening, the main hall. Then he left, leaving Lily with a knot of anxiety in her stomach and an empty wardrobe. She had no evening gown. She did not even have a decent outfit. Everything she owned consisted of a few worn dresses Victoria had allowed her to keep. Lily went to the kitchen wing, where she had slipped down early in the morning out of habit, because waking at 4 could not be undone after 10 years. And there she met a housekeeper named Maria. Maria was a kind, middle-aged woman who gave Lily a cup of hot tea when she saw her wandering the kitchen like a ghost. And when she heard Lily's situation, she rummaged through an old cupboard and found her a dress. "It is not beautiful," Maria said apologetically, "but at least it is clean and it fits you." The dress was a pale gray, simple in design, the fabric slightly worn at the hem, but to Lily it was the most beautiful thing she had worn in many years. At 7 in the evening, the main hall of the Blackwood mansion transformed into a world of luxury Lily could never have imagined. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm golden glow. A long banquet table draped in white linen held fresh flower arrangements and gleaming crystal glasses. Classical music floated softly from somewhere unseen, and dozens of elegantly dressed men and women mingled, laughed, and sipped wine. Vanessa appeared in a black evening gown shimmering with sequins, plunging neckline, bare back, and diamond jewelry surely worth more than the house Lily had once lived in. She moved through groups of guests, like a fish through water. Natural, graceful, completely in command of every conversation. Crystal wore a red gown slit high to the hip, every step, drawing the gaze of every man in the room. And she knew it, knew how to use it. Smiling sweetly, touching hands, whispering into the ears of important guests, as if they were old friends from childhood. And then there was Lily, in the old gray dress from the servants' quarters, standing in a corner like a shadow, not knowing what to say, not knowing what to do, not even knowing who was who. She tried to speak with an older woman, but the woman looked her up and down and turned away in contempt. She tried to stand near a group of men talking about business, but they used words she did not understand and completely ignored her existence. Lily felt like an ant among elephants, tiny, invisible, liable to be crushed at any moment. And then the accident happened. Lily was trying to move through the crowd when a server passed by. Someone shoved her from behind. She lost her balance, and the entire tray of wine spilled onto the man standing in front of her. Red wine bloomed across his pristine white shirt like blood, and the whole room fell silent. The man turned, his face flushed with rage, and Lily realized he was one of the important guests, a boss of some family whose name she did not know. "What the hell are you?" he roared, his voice echoing through the hall. "A servant, a sewer rat. You dare stain my shirt." Lily bowed her head. "I am sorry. I did not mean to. Please forgive me." But the man did not stop. "Sorry," he sneered. "You think sorry is enough. Look at you, dressed like garbage, standing here disgracing the entire party. Do you think you deserve to stand among the people here?" Vanessa stood a few steps away, covering her mouth as she laughed, her eyes glittering with pleasure. Crystal raised her phone, likely recording. The other guests murmured. Some laughed, some shook their heads, and all of them looked at Lily as if she were a spectacle. Lily stood there with her head bowed, hands clenched at her sides, and she did not cry. She was used to this, used to humiliation, used to being treated like refuse. 10 years had taught her how to endure without breaking, but that did not mean it did not hurt. The entire room laughed at her. Lily stood there, head lowered, feeling smaller than she ever had before, and then a voice cut through the laughter. "You have just insulted my guest." The voice was ice cold, slicing through every sound in the grand hall, and the entire room fell into a dead silence, as if all the air had been sucked out at once. Marcus Blackwood stepped forward from behind, each of his footsteps striking the stone floor like the beat of a war drum, and the crowd instinctively parted to either side like the Red Sea before Moses. The man who had just humiliated Lily turned around, his flushed face draining white in an instant when he realized who had spoken. "Marcus," he stammered. "I was only... This girl spilled wine on my shirt. I was just teaching her a lesson." Marcus stopped one step away from him, and although the man was half a head taller, he looked like a rat standing before a cat. "She is in my house," Marcus said, his voice still steel-cold but with something far more dangerous beneath it. "She is my guest, and she deserves respect. Do you understand? Or do I need to make myself clearer?" The man swallowed hard, his face pale. I understand. I am sorry, Marcus. I did not know. It will not happen again. Marcus said nothing more, only held the man in that icy gray gaze for a few seconds before turning away. He did not look at Lily, did not say a word to her, as if she did not exist. Yet she understood. He had protected her. In his own way. The party resumed after that, but no one dared look at Lily with contempt again. No one dared mock her, and the man Marcus had reprimanded quietly left shortly afterward. Vanessa and Crystal also fell silent, though the looks they cast Lily were still filled with hatred and jealousy. That night Lily could not sleep. She lay on the softest bed she had ever known, yet her mind spun endlessly with what had happened. Why had Marcus protected her? She was only merchandise, only a debt repaid. Why would he care? She tossed and turned until well past midnight, then decided to step outside for some air. Lily found a balcony at the end of the second-floor corridor overlooking the garden, drowned in moonlight shadow. She pushed the door open and froze when she realized she was not alone. Marcus was standing there, leaning against the railing, a half-burned cigar in his hand, smoke curling upward into the night sky. He did not look at her, but he knew she was there. "Cannot sleep?" he asked, his voice no longer cold like earlier, only tired, a kind of tiredness Lily recognized because she had carried it for 10 years herself. Lily meant to turn back, but something held her in place. "I want to ask," she said softly. "Why did you protect me?" Marcus was silent for a long time, took a draw from his cigar, exhaled smoke. "Because you are in my house," he said. Nothing more. Lily knew that was not the real answer, but she did not press him. Instead, she stepped closer to the railing, standing a few steps from him, and looked up at the star-filled sky. The silence stretched on, not uncomfortable, just two strangers standing side by side in the night, each carrying unspoken wounds of their own. Then Marcus spoke again, his voice softer, almost a whisper. "The book," he said. "Why is it so important to you?" Lily looked at him, surprised that he remembered. "It was my father's last gift to me," she said. "Inside it there is a letter he wrote before he died, but I have never dared to open it." Marcus turned to look at her. And for the first time Lily saw something different in those gray eyes. Not coldness, not indifference, but understanding, as if he knew what it felt like to lose someone who mattered. "I once had someone," Marcus said slowly, "who liked talking to books, who made little animals out of paper, who believed this world still held good things." He paused, eyes distant. "She is gone." Lily did not ask what had happened. She did not need to. She could see the pain in his eyes, a pain frozen into coldness over many years. "Go to sleep," Marcus said, his voice returning to neutral. "It is late. Tomorrow will be harder than today." Lily nodded and turned to leave, but just as her hand touched the door, she heard Marcus speak again, his voice so soft she was not sure she had imagined it. "Do not lose it, ever." 3 days after the disastrous party, Vincent knocked on Lily's door one morning and informed her of the second challenge, Marcus's daughter. "Emma will turn 8 tomorrow," he said, his tone still calm, but his eyes warmer when he spoke of his child. "Marcus wants the 3 candidates to organize a birthday party for her. This challenge is meant to see who truly has a heart, not who has the most money." Lily nodded, but anxiety tightened in her chest. She had no money, no connections, nothing at all to create a grand celebration. That afternoon she saw Vanessa directing a team of decorators as they brought in dozens of balloons imported from France, a 7-tier birthday cake ordered from the most famous bakery in the city, and piles of expensive toys stacked like mountains. Crystal hired an entire film crew to capture every moment, ordered a jewel-encrusted princess dress for Emma to wear, and planned to turn the party into an event for her social media. Lily had nothing, but she had her hands, and she had time. That night she stayed awake until 3 in the morning, using colored paper Maria had secretly brought her from the office supply room to fold hundreds of tiny stars, dozens of origami sparrows, and paper flowers in every shade. It was all she could do. Emma's birthday arrived, and the garden behind the mansion was divided into 3 sections, for the 3 candidates. Vanessa's area was as lavish as a palace, filled with balloons and toys, yet she stood in a corner talking on her phone, not sparing Emma a single glance. Crystal's area blazed with lights and cameras, but she was busy taking selfies and adjusting angles instead of paying attention to the birthday girl. Lily's area was simple, with paper birds hanging from tree branches, stars pasted on the tables, and a small cupcake cake Maria had helped her make. But Lily did not stand aside like the other 2. She sat down on the grass right beside Emma. The 8-year-old girl had brown hair tied into 2 small bunches, large round eyes filled with sadness, and the way she curled into herself reminded Lily of her own reflection from many years ago. Vincent had explained that the child's mother had died in a car accident when the girl was only 3, and since then Emma had become shy and withdrawn, and today was her first birthday. Since Marcus announced he was seeking a wife, she did not understand what was happening, only that strange women had appeared in her home, and everyone seemed to want something from her father. "Hello, Emma," Lily said gently. "My name is Lily. May I sit here with you?" Emma looked at her for a long moment, then gave a small nod. "What do you like most?" Lily asked. Emma was silent for a long time, then whispered, "I like books, but no one reads to me anymore. My mom used to read, but she is gone." Lily's heart clenched. She looked into the girl's sad eyes and saw herself there, a child who had lost her mother, alone in a world of adults who did not understand. Lily opened her bag and took out the book, The Brave Little Sparrow. "Would you like me to tell you a story?" she asked. Emma's eyes lit up for the first time. The girl nodded. Lily opened the book and began to tell the story, not reading word for word but speaking in her own voice, about a tiny sparrow who had lost its nest, about its journey through storms and rain, about the times it fell and still got back up, and about how it finally found a home, not the place where it was born, but the place where people loved it. Emma sat perfectly still, her eyes never leaving the book, and when Lily reached the part where the sparrow found a friend, the girl's lips curved into a smile. The first smile in many months, Vincent would later tell Lily. When the story ended, Lily took a sheet of blue paper and began to fold. Her hands moved swiftly, and within minutes a small, delicate sparrow appeared in her palm. "This is my birthday gift to you," Lily said, placing the paper bird into Emma's hands. "Whenever you feel sad, look at it and remember that no matter how small you are, you can still fly very far." Emma looked at the paper sparrow, then at Lily, and suddenly threw her arms around her. "Thank you, Lily," Emma whispered, her voice trembling. Lily held the girl close and felt tears spill down her own cheeks, not from sadness, but from a warmth she had not felt in a very long time. Not far away, Marcus stood leaning against a tree, watching everything. His face was as cold as ever. But something shifted in those gray eyes as he watched Lily hold Emma. He remembered someone who had once held him like that, long ago, before the world stole her away forever. The birthday party went on, and Emma did not leave Lily's side for even a moment. The little girl clutched the paper sparrow as if it were the most precious treasure in the world, and for the first time in a very long while, there was life in her eyes. There was joy. There was something that looked like hope. Vanessa watched everything from her lavishly decorated yet strangely empty section, her face twisting with jealousy. She had spent thousands of dollars on this party, hired the most expensive decorators, bought the most extravagant toys, yet the child clung to that beggar girl with her cheap paper birds. When Lily stood up to get Emma some water, Vanessa saw her chance. She walked over to Lily's area with a falsely friendly expression, sat down beside Emma, and said in a sugary voice, "Oh, Emma dear, what are you playing with? May I see?" Emma hesitated, then handed the paper sparrow to Vanessa, who took it and pretended to admire it. Then, as if by accident, she reached for a glass of water on the table and poured it straight onto the bird. "Oh no," Vanessa exclaimed with exaggerated regret. "I was careless. I am so sorry. But it is just a cheap paper thing anyway. I can buy you much more expensive toys." But Emma heard nothing of that. She only stared at the soggy, ruined paper sparrow in Vanessa's hand, her big eyes filling with tears before she burst into sobs. "My bird," Emma cried. "Lily made it for me. I do not want other toys. I want my bird." Vanessa stood up and shrugged indifferently. "It is just paper. Make another one. What is the big deal?" Crystal stood a few steps away, covering her mouth as she laughed, clearly complicit in the dirty little game. Lily returned with the glass of water and saw the scene before her. She saw Emma crying, saw the crushed paper sparrow on the ground, saw Vanessa's triumphant smile. She understood immediately what had happened, but instead of getting angry, instead of shouting or confronting Vanessa, Lily quietly set the glass down and knelt beside Emma. "Emma," she said gently, pulling the girl into her arms, "do you remember what happened to the sparrow in the story?" Emma looked up, tears still streaming, her voice trembling. "It got wet in the rain." "That is right," Lily nodded with a soft smile. "The sparrow was soaked by rain many times. Its wings were drenched, its feathers clung together." "But do you know what it did?" Emma shook her head. "It waited for the rain to stop," Lily said. "Then it shook out its feathers, dried its wings, and flew on." Because it was a brave little sparrow. And brave sparrows never give up. Lily pulled a sheet of blue paper from her pocket. Thankfully, she still had a few left, and began to fold. Her hands moved faster than before, more carefully, more precisely, and a new sparrow appeared in her hands, more beautiful than the first, its wings wider, its head held higher, as if it were truly in flight. "This is sparrow version 2, Lily said, handing it to Emma. "This one is stronger, because it has already survived the rain." Emma took the bird, studied it, and her tears stopped falling. She threw her arms around Lily, holding on as if afraid Lily might disappear. "Thank you, Lily," Emma whispered. "I love you." Lily held her, feeling her own heart melt. Vanessa stood there, her face pale with rage and humiliation. Her plan had not only failed but had made Lily look even better in everyone's eyes. Marcus stepped closer, stopped a few paces away, and watched Lily holding Emma. "You did well," he said. Just 3 words, his voice still cold, his face still unreadable, but it was the first time in many years that Marcus Blackwood had praised anyone. Then he turned and walked away without another word. Later that night, when Lily returned to her room, she found a small package placed outside her door. Inside was a set of origami paper in every color, the kind of expensive paper she had never touched before. With no note, no name, Lily held the paper, looked at the vibrant colors, and smiled. For the first time in 3 years. She smiled for real. She did not know who had sent it, but she knew that in this place, not everything was darkness. On the 5th night at the Blackwood mansion, Lily could not sleep. She lay on the bed staring at the ceiling, her mind circling endlessly around the mysterious origami paper set, around Marcus's gaze when he told her she had done well, around the way he had looked at her holding Emma with something she could not name. When the clock struck 1 in the morning, Lily decided to walk through the mansion to quiet her thoughts. She put on a thin jacket, opened her door, and wandered along the long, endless corridors. The Blackwood mansion at night was entirely different from the day, so silent she could hear her own heartbeat, moonlight spilling through the tall windows and casting eerie streaks of light across the stone floor, and Lily felt as though she were walking inside a dream. She passed through the 2nd floor, descended the stairs, turned into a corridor she had never entered before, and kept going until she realized she had wandered into the west wing of the mansion. The area Vincent had warned her not to enter. Lily meant to turn back, but something drew her onward. A door stood ajar at the end of the corridor, a dim light glowing inside. She knew she should not be curious, knew this was wrong, yet her feet carried her forward as if hypnotized. Lily pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was small but overflowing with books and toys. Shelves lined the walls packed with children's books and novels. A corner held teddy bears and dolls arranged neatly, and on the study desk were origami animals in every color, coated in a thin layer of dust as if no one had touched them for years. This was a girl's room, Lily realized. A girl who loved books and paper folding. Just like her, she walked to the desk and saw a photograph in a wooden frame. In it was a young girl, about 16 years old. Long black hair, gray eyes bright as stars, and the most radiant smile Lily had ever seen. The girl resembled Marcus. The same gray eyes, the same facial lines. But where Marcus seemed dead inside, she was overflowing with life. Lily picked up a book from the shelf and saw a handwritten note on the first page. Sophia Blackwood's book, "Anyone who sneaks a read will be pecked by sparrows," with a small drawing of an angry little sparrow. Lily smiled, but the smile froze when a voice sounded behind her. "What are you doing here?" Lily turned, and her heart seemed to stop. Marcus stood in the doorway, his face half lit and half in shadow under the dim light, those gray eyes fixed on her with something she could not read. Not anger, not coldness, but pain, a pain so deep it had fossilized. "I am sorry," Lily stammered. Setting the book down, "I got lost. I did not know this was a restricted area. I will leave right away." But Marcus did not tell her to go. He stepped into the room, looking around as if gazing into the past, then stopped before the photograph on the desk. "Sophia," he said softly, lighter than air. "My sister." Lily stood still, afraid to move. Marcus picked up the photograph, his fingers tracing the girl's face, and he continued as though speaking to himself rather than to Lily. "She was 16 when it happened," Marcus said. 10 years ago, the Moretti family kidnapped her to threaten my father. They demanded ransom, but when we reached the place, she was already dead." His voice did not tremble, did not break. It was simply hollow, the emptiness of someone who had cried all his tears long ago. "Sophia loved books," Marcus went on. She talked to them as if they were friends. She folded hundreds of paper animals and named each one. She believed the world was good and people were kind. He set the photograph down and turned to look at Lily. And she saw in those gray eyes an abyss of suffering. "I killed them," Marcus said, his voice cold as steel. "I killed every last one in the Moretti family. I became a monster to avenge her. I built this empire on the blood and bones of my enemies. But no matter how many people I killed, I could not save her." Lily looked at Marcus, and for the first time she did not see a cold, ruthless mafia lord. She did not see the man who had bought her with money. She saw only a man carrying a wound that had not healed for 10 years, a brother who had lost his sister and would never forgive himself. Lily stood there looking at Marcus, and she did not feel the fear she thought she should feel. She had lived with Victoria for 10 years. She knew what real monsters looked like. And Marcus was not a monster. He was only a man shattered by loss. Just like her, Sophia would not want you to torment yourself like this, Lily said softly, her voice steady, unafraid, filled only with understanding. Marcus looked at her, his gray eyes widening slightly in surprise. "You are not afraid of me?" he asked. His voice different now, no longer cold, only curious, perhaps even a little stunned. Lily shook her head. "I have lived with real monsters for 10 years, she said. "And you are not a monster. You are just someone who is hurting." Marcus studied her for a long moment in silence, as if trying to read something in her eyes. Then he turned to the bookshelf, pulled out a thin volume, and handed it to her. "This was Sophia's favorite book," he said quietly. "The Sparrow Who Flew Far, the sequel to the book you have." Lily took the book with trembling hands. She stared at the cover, where the familiar little sparrow was soaring across a blue sky. Wings spread wide, free and brave. She had never known there was a sequel. Her father had never had the chance to buy it for her before he died, and for 17 years she had wondered where the little sparrow had finally flown. Tears spilled before Lily could stop them. She stood there clutching the book to her chest and cried, not from sadness, but because something warm was melting inside her, something she had believed long dead. Marcus stood there, awkward, clearly unsure what to do when a woman cried in front of him. He lifted his hand as if to wipe the tears from her cheek, then stopped midway, his fingers hovering a few centimeters from her face, before he lowered his hand. "Go to sleep," he said, his voice rougher than usual. "It is late." Lily nodded, hugged the book to herself, and left Sophia's room, but that night was not the last time they spoke. In the days that followed, Marcus began to seek Lily out, not the way he sought Vanessa or Crystal, not to evaluate or test her, but simply to talk. He found her on the balcony at night, in the garden in the morning, in the library in the afternoon. They talked about books, about Sophia, about Lily's father, about the things they had lost, and the things they were still searching for. Lily read aloud to Marcus, her voice gentle in the quiet spaces, and he listened, his gray eyes no longer ice-cold but warmer, softer. Vincent saw it all and could scarcely believe his eyes. "Marcus smiles," he said to Maria in the kitchen, his voice filled with disbelief. "For the first time in 10 years I have seen him smile." It was not a broad smile, only a slight curve at the corner of his mouth when Lily said something foolish. Only the softening of his gaze when she laughed, only the way he looked at her when she was not aware of it. But it was more than anyone had seen from Marcus Blackwood in a decade. One night as they sat on the balcony watching the stars, Marcus suddenly took Lily's hand. His hand was warm and steady, his fingers threading through hers as if they belonged together. Lily looked up at him, her heart pounding. "You make me want to be a better man," Marcus said, his voice low and honest, not looking at her but at the night sky. "I do not know if that is a good thing or a bad thing, but it is the truth." Lily looked at Marcus's hand holding hers, and she knew she was falling in love with the most dangerous man she had ever met. Vanessa was not a fool. She had been trained since childhood to recognize every threat, and she saw the way Marcus looked at Lily. It was not the gaze of a master appraising property, not the look of a buyer examining his purchase, but the look of a man falling in love without realizing it himself. Vanessa knew she was losing. She had money, beauty, lineage, everything a mafia matriarch was supposed to have, but she did not have what that beggar girl possessed, something that had made Marcus smile for the first time in 10 years. She had to eliminate Lily at any cost. That night, Vanessa knocked on Crystal's door, and the two women sat down to scheme. They were rivals, but they hated Lily more than they hated each other. And the enemy of one's enemy was a friend. "That girl has a problem," Vanessa said, swirling the wine in her glass. No one knows where she came from. No one knows who her family is, and Marcus trusts her like that. I smell something suspicious. Crystal nodded, her crimson nails tapping against her phone screen. Let me look into it. I have connections. I only need a name. Lily Morgan, Vanessa said. Her mother is Victoria Morgan. In Portland, Crystal started digging, and within hours she had results. Victoria Morgan was not Lily's biological mother. She was a stepmother, and she had a biological daughter named Tiffany Morgan, 24 years old. Very active on social media, Crystal messaged Tiffany, pretending to be a wealthy admirer wanting to befriend her, and Tiffany, vain and eager for attention, took the bait almost immediately. After just a few conversations and promises of expensive gifts, Tiffany spilled everything. Lily, Tiffany typed, contempt dripping even through text. She is just a servant in my house. My mom raised her like a dog. She sleeps in the basement, works all day. Sometimes my mom beats her too. Crystal grinned as she read the messages and demanded proof. Tiffany sent photos, pictures of Lily scrubbing floors, doing laundry, standing with her head bowed in the kitchen in ragged clothes, and one stolen photo of Lily's back while she was changing, where layers of scars were clearly visible across pale skin. Vanessa looked at the images and smiled. A smile so vicious that even Crystal shuddered. But it is not enough, Vanessa said. I need more. I need to hear it from the stepmother herself. Vanessa called Victoria, introduced herself as a representative of the Blackwood family, and said she would pay $20,000 if Victoria told the whole truth about Lily. Victoria, greedy and opportunistic by nature, agreed without hesitation. The video call was recorded by Crystal from start to finish. Lily, Victoria said in the video, her face showing no shame at all. She is my husband's bastard child. I raised her for 10 years like a dog. She slept in the basement, ate leftovers, worked from morning till night. Sometimes I had to teach her with a whip because she was stupid and slow. Victoria sneered into the camera. Then I got into debt. She continued. $2 million. Blackwood's people came to collect. I had no money, so I sold her. She is worthless. I sold her like a dog. And even dogs have someone who loves them. But no one ever loved her. Crystal stopped the video, and Vanessa laughed out loud. Perfect, she said. Tomorrow is the night Marcus announces the winner. I will show everyone what that girl really is. That night, while Lily sat in her room reading the book Marcus had given her, her phone vibrated, a message from an unknown number. But its contents froze her blood. You are about to be humiliated, the message read. Enjoy it, signed Tiffany. Lily stared at the screen, her hands shaking, and she knew something terrible was coming. She could not sleep, tossing and turning until there was a knock at the door. Vincent stood outside, his face grave. Be careful, he whispered. I overheard something. Vanessa and Crystal are planning something. They are going to do something to you tomorrow. I do not know exactly what, but prepare yourself. Lily nodded, thanked Vincent, and closed the door. She sank down in the corner of the room, hugged the book to her chest, and stared out the window at the ink-black night sky. She knew the storm was coming. She just did not know how devastating it would be. The party to announce the winner was held on the 7th night, the final night of the week of trials, and the grand hall of the Blackwood mansion had never been so crowded or so dazzling. Every allied family was present, hundreds of guests dressed in the most expensive attire, adorned with the most glittering jewelry. The most powerful figures on the east coast of the United States gathered in this room to witness Marcus Blackwood choose the woman who would stand at his side. The 3 candidates stood on a small stage at the front of the hall, facing a sea of murmuring voices. Vanessa radiant in a gold gown, confident like a queen, the smile on her lips full of calculation. Crystal seductive in a high-slit silver dress, her eyes gleaming with cruel excitement. And Lily, in the simple gray dress Maria had given her, standing at the edge of the stage, her hands clenched at her sides, her heart pounding as the unease from the night before refused to fade. Marcus stepped onto the stage, and the hall fell silent. He wore a black 3-piece suit, his face cold as ever. Yet when his gray gaze passed over Lily, she sensed a hidden warmth beneath it. He opened his mouth to speak, but Vanessa stepped forward, bowing her head with feigned respect. Marcus, before you announce your decision, she said sweetly, I ask permission to share something important with everyone here. I believe everyone has the right to know the truth about the candidates who wish to become the mistress of the Blackwood family. Marcus frowned, but before he could speak, Vanessa signaled to Crystal, and a large screen slowly descended behind the stage. The video began to play, and the face of Victoria Morgan appeared on the screen, magnified many times larger than life, wearing a vicious smile and a look of contempt. Lily, Victoria's voice boomed through the hall via the speakers. "She is my husband's illegitimate child. I raised her for 10 years like a dog. She slept in the basement, ate leftovers, worked from morning until night. Sometimes I had to teach her with a whip because she was stupid and slow." Lily stood frozen. The blood in her veins seemed to stop flowing. She stared at Victoria's face on the screen, listened to that familiar voice, exposing 10 years of her personal hell before hundreds of strangers. And she could not move. The video continued. "Then I got into debt," Victoria said. $2 million. Blackwood's people came to collect. I had no money, so I sold her. She is worthless. I sold her like a dog, and even dogs have someone who loves them. But no one ever loved her." The video ended, and the hall fell silent for a heartbeat, then erupted into whispers, sneers, and contemptuous laughter. People looked at Lily as though she were an animal in a zoo, a piece of trash that had wandered by mistake into a high society gathering. Vanessa stepped up beside Lily, triumph gleaming in her smile. "Is this the woman Marcus intends to choose as mistress?" she declared loudly, her voice theatrical. "A servant, a girl sold to pay a debt, a girl who slept in a basement and lived on scraps." Crystal joined in, her tone dripping with disdain. "She does not deserve to stand here. She does not deserve to breathe the same air as us. She is nothing but garbage." Laughter rippled through the crowd, fingers pointed, heads shook in disgust. And Lily stood there in the center of the stage, before hundreds of people, stripped bare to the bone. Tears ran down her cheeks. Not because of their words. She was used to humiliation, but because 10 years of suffering she had tried to hide were now displayed like a cruel joke for public amusement. Yet Lily did not run. She stood there, her legs trembling but unbuckled, her body shaking but unfallen. She lifted her head, looked straight at the crowd mocking her, and she spoke. "I did not choose the family I was born into," Lily said, her voice soft yet carrying through the sudden silence. "I did not choose to be beaten, starved, locked in a basement for 10 years, but I did choose to remain kind even when treated like trash. Does that make me a worse person?" The entire hall fell silent. No laughter, no whispers, only a heavy stillness in Lily's eyes, red with tears yet unbowed. And Marcus stepped to her side, his face colder than ever. So cold the room itself seemed to freeze. But Lily knew that chill was not meant for her. "What did you just do?" Marcus's voice was not loud, yet it sliced through the silence of the grand hall like a sharpened blade. And everyone felt the temperature in the room drop by several degrees. Vanessa opened her mouth, the smile still on her lips but already trembling. "I am only revealing the truth. Marcus," she said, forcing confidence into her voice. "Everyone has the right to know who she really is. She is just a servant sold to pay a debt. She does not deserve to stand beside you." Marcus walked toward Vanessa, each step echoing on the stone floor like a funeral drum, and Vanessa stumbled back one step, then another, until her back hit the edge of the stage. "The truth," Marcus said, his voice cold as steel with something seething beneath it. "The truth is that you just bullied a woman who survived 10 years of hell. The truth is that you exposed her pain in front of hundreds of people as entertainment. The truth is that you just showed me exactly what kind of person you are." Vanessa went pale, her lips moving but no sound coming out. Crystal stood behind her, trying to retreat into the crowd and disappear, but Marcus turned his gaze on her. "You too," he said. "Do not think I do not know you were complicit in this." Marcus then faced the entire hall, hundreds of faces staring at him in shock and fear. "Lily Morgan," he said, his voice carrying through the room, "is not trash, not garbage, not merchandise. She is the bravest person I have ever met in my life. She survived 10 years of abuse and still kept a kind heart. She was sold like an object yet carries no hatred. She stands here before all of you, publicly humiliated. And she does not collapse. She does not run. She lifts her head and asks whether kindness makes her unworthy." Marcus paused, drew a breath, and when he continued, his voice was no longer cold but filled with an emotion no one in that room had ever heard from this Mafia lord. "If anyone here believes that birth determines a person's worth," Marcus said, "if anyone believes money and lineage matter more than the heart, then that person has a problem with me." The hall was utterly silent. No one dared move. No one dared breathe too loudly. Marcus stepped to Lily's side and, before hundreds of witnesses, took her hand. His hand was warm and firm, his fingers threading through hers like a promise, a shield, a declaration to the world. As for those two, Marcus turned to Vanessa and Crystal, his voice freezing again. "Get out of my house, now, and never appear before me again." Vanessa's mouth fell open, unable to believe what she had just heard. But Marcus, The Romano family, she stammered. My father will not accept this. Marcus looked at her with eyes that could freeze hell itself. Your father may come speak to me whenever he likes, he said. But you leave. 2 guards appeared as if from thin air, taking positions on either side of Vanessa and Crystal, and no one said another word as they were escorted out of the grand hall. The party ended shortly after, guests departing one by one in stunned silence. And when the last door closed, Lily collapsed. She sank onto the cold stone floor, and for the first time in 10 years, she truly cried. Not silent tears in the dark, not sobs swallowed in her throat, but loud, broken crying. Crying like an abandoned child, crying for the 10 years of suffering she had buried deep inside herself. Marcus sat down beside her, awkward like a man who had never had to comfort anyone. Then he pulled her into his arms and held her. He said nothing, simply held her, letting her cry into his chest, letting her tears soak through his expensive suit. And he did not care. Why? Lily asked between sobs, her voice shattered. Why did you protect me? Marcus was silent for a long time, his hand gently stroking her black hair. And when he finally spoke, his voice was rougher than usual. Because you remind me that I once was a good man, he said. Because you make me want to be better. Because you are the only light in my dark world. And in Marcus's arms, Lily cried for 10 years of pain, for the child abandoned in a basement, for the woman no one had seen, and for the first time in her life, someone was there to catch her when she fell. Vanessa did not accept defeat. That very night, after being expelled from the Blackwood mansion, she sat in her car, her hands shaking with rage, and made a phone call she knew would change everything, to Luca Moretti, the boss of the rival family, the Blackwoods' sworn enemy, the man who had killed Marcus's sister 10 years earlier, and later lost his own brother in the retaliation that followed. Vanessa told Luca everything. About Lily, about the way Marcus looked at her, about how the coldest Mafia lord on the East Coast had softened because of a girl who owned nothing but an old book. She is his weakness, Vanessa said venomously. If you want to destroy Marcus Blackwood, start with her, Luca laughed, a sound cold and slithering like a snake, and said he would handle it. A week after that fateful night, everything seemed calm. Marcus gave Lily a choice. She could stay or leave with a sum of money to begin a new life. And Lily chose to stay. He did not ask why. She did not explain. But they both knew the answer lay in the way they looked at each other, in the nights of quiet conversations on the balcony, in the hands clasped tightly before the world that night. That afternoon, Lily asked Vincent to take her to a bookstore. She wanted to buy a new book, to read to Emma, and Vincent agreed. But he insisted on taking a security detail, following Marcus's strict protocols. They went in a private car, trailed by an SUV with 2 armed guards. However, they were walking into a trap set by a ghost. As soon as the convoy stopped in front of the bookstore, a heavy truck suddenly slammed into the rear security vehicle, crushing it instantly before the guards could react. Simultaneously, a black van screeched up to Lily's car, its doors flew open, and 6 heavily armed men rushed out, moving with military precision. Vincent reacted instantly, shielding Lily with his body. He drew his gun and shot one man down, but a bullet tore through his shoulder. Then another struck his leg, and he collapsed. Lily screamed Vincent's name, but a rough hand clamped over her mouth. A sharp chemical stench flooded her senses, and the world went dark. When the news reached Marcus, he was in his office reviewing financial reports. Vincent has been shot, a courier reported, his voice trembling. Miss Morgan has been taken. Moretti's men. The coffee cup slipped from Marcus's hand and shattered on the floor, but he did not hear it. He rose, strode to his desk, and slammed his fist into the oak surface with a roar of fury. The wood cracked. Blood welled from his knuckles, yet he felt no pain. For the first time in 10 years, Marcus Blackwood lost control. Find her, he bellowed, his voice no longer human but the roar of a wounded beast. Find her immediately. I do not care how many people must die. Find her. Lily woke in darkness. She lay on a cold concrete floor, her hands bound behind her back, her mouth sealed with tape, able to see nothing but a thin blade of light, seeping through a crack beneath the door. She did not know where she was, did not know how much time had passed, only that she was terrified. The door opened, and a man stepped in, switching on the light. The glare forced Lily to squeeze her eyes shut, and when she opened them she saw a strange face. Around 40, scarred, with eyes as cold as a serpent's. Luca Moretti ripped the tape from Lily's mouth and smiled. So this is the girl who made Marcus Blackwood lose his mind, he said mockingly. I must admit, you are prettier than I expected. Lily said nothing. She looked at him with fear in her eyes but without pleading. Luca squatted down, his face only centimeters from hers. "Do you know why you are here?" he asked. "Because Marcus Blackwood killed my brother, and I killed his sister, and now I will kill you, the thing he loves." Lily's heart seemed to stop. Marcus's sister, Sophia, the girl who loved books and paper animals, had died at the hands of this man. Luca stood, laughing coldly. "He will come, and when he does, I will kill you both," Luca said, then walked out and slammed the door shut. Lily lay trembling in the darkness, but she forced herself to breathe. Her hands were still bound, yet she felt something hard in the pocket of her jacket. They had not taken it. The book. She rubbed the bindings against the corner of the wall. It took hours, but at last the ropes loosened, and she freed herself. In the darkness, Lily took out the book, and for the first time in 17 years she opened her father's letter. She could not read it first because it was too dark, but she lifted the paper to her nose, breathed in the scent of old paper, the scent of her father, the scent of love. Then the light from the crack was just enough for her to make out the words, "My beloved daughter, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer beside you, but I want you to know that you are stronger than you think. You are like the little sparrow in the story, seemingly fragile yet able to fly farther than anyone. No matter how fierce the storm, you will endure, because you are my daughter, and I love you, forever." Tears streamed down Lily's face. But she was no longer crying from fear. She cried because she could finally hear her father's voice. After 17 years, after 10 years of hell, he was still here, in every word, in every line of ink. Lily folded the letter, pressed it to her chest, and whispered, "If I must die, I will die like the sparrow, brave and unafraid, but I will not die. I will live, Daddy, I promise." Marcus did not wait until morning. That very night he mobilized the full force of the Blackwood family, dozens of armed men, the most loyal, the most dangerous, and they drove straight toward the Moretti stronghold, on the outskirts of the city. Marcus sat in the back seat of the car, his face cold as stone. Yet those gray eyes burned with a fire no one had ever seen in him before. The fire of rage, of fear, of a man about to lose the most important thing in his life for the second time. When the convoy stopped in front of an abandoned warehouse at the harbor, Marcus was the first to step out. He did not wait for orders, did not need a plan. He simply drew his gun and walked into the darkness. Gunshots exploded everywhere. Screams, shouts, bodies hitting the ground, and Marcus moved through it all like a mad wolf. He was no longer the calculating, ice-cold Mafia boss. He was only a man searching for the woman he loved, and anyone who stood in his way would die. Blood stained the concrete floor. But Marcus did not stop. He shot them down one by one, kicked open door after door, calling Lily's name in the dark, and when he burst through the final door, he saw her. Lily stood in the center of the room. Luca Moretti's arm locked around her neck, the cold muzzle of a gun pressed to her temple. "Lily!" Marcus roared, his voice torn apart. Luca laughed, the laughter of a madman, and tightened his grip around Lily's throat. "Drop the gun, Marcus," he said, "or I blow this girl's head off right in front of you, just like you did to my brother." Marcus stood frozen, his gun still raised, but his hand shook. For the first time in his life, Marcus Blackwood was afraid. Not afraid of death, not afraid of pain, but afraid of losing her. Afraid of watching her fall the way Sophia had fallen 10 years earlier. Afraid that he would once again fail to protect the person he loved. Lily looked at Marcus, and even with the gun pressed to her head, even knowing she might die in the next second, she smiled. "It is all right," she said, her voice gentle and calm enough to tear Marcus apart from the inside. "No matter what happens, it is all right." And then Lily acted. She did not wait for anyone to save her. She saved herself. With every ounce of strength she had left, she drove her elbow back hard into Luca's stomach. He never expected the small, fragile girl to fight back. He staggered for a split second. The gun slipped away from her head, and that second was all Marcus needed. He fired. The bullet tore through Luca's shoulder. Luca screamed in pain, but his finger still pulled the trigger. A deafening blast rang out, and Lily felt as if a hot knife had sliced through her shoulder. She collapsed, pain ripping through her body, but she was alive. The bullet had only grazed her shoulder, missing anything vital. Marcus lunged at Luca, kicked him to the ground, and pressed the gun to his head. Those gray eyes were dark as an abyss, his finger tight on the trigger, and he wanted to shoot. He wanted to kill the man who had nearly taken Lily's life. He wanted him dead here and now. Do not." Lily's weak voice came from behind him. "Marcus, do not. You do not have to be a monster anymore." Marcus froze, his finger still on the trigger. But Lily's words hit him like a bucket of ice water. He looked at Luca on the floor, the man who had killed his sister, the man who had nearly killed the woman he loved, and he wanted him dead more than anything. But he also saw Lily in his mind, her smile, her eyes, the way she had said he was not a monster, and he realized that if he pulled the trigger, he would become the very thing she believed he was not. Marcus lowered the gun, stood up, and said to his men, "Call the police, tie him up, let the law deal with him." Then he turned back to Lily, rushed to her side, knelt down and pulled her into his arms. Seeing the blood soaking her dress, Marcus ripped off his own tie and pressed it firmly against her wound to stop the bleeding, his hands shaking slightly with fear. "Never." His voice trembled. For the first time in his life, Marcus Blackwood trembled. "Never scare me like that again." Lily laughed weakly through tears and pain. "You just admitted you were scared," she said. Marcus looked at her. And despite the blood, despite the pain, despite the chaos around them, he laughed. A real laugh. His first in 10 years. "Yeah," he said. "I was scared. I was terrified of losing you." Lily shook her head, pressed her face against his chest, and cried. Cried from relief. Cried from happiness. Cried because she was alive and he was here. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Luca was cuffed and dragged away. But Marcus and Lily remained there, sitting on the filthy floor of the dark room, holding each other as if afraid the other might disappear, and Lily realized that this was the warmest place she had ever been in her life, not because of the room, but because he was there. 6 months after that fateful night, many things had changed. Marcus ordered a full investigation into Victoria Morgan's past, and what they uncovered was even worse than what Lily had ever told. 10 years of abuse, 10 years of violence, 10 years of turning a child into a slave inside her own father's house. Marcus sent all the evidence to the police, along with Lily's testimony and that of multiple witnesses, and Victoria was arrested inside the house at number 72 Crescent Street. She was sentenced to 5 years in prison for abuse, assault, and fraud, while Tiffany received a 2-year suspended sentence for complicity. They lost everything. Their house was seized to pay debts, their money vanished to nothing, their reputation dissolved into dust. Victoria wept in court, claiming she loved Lily, but no one believed her anymore, and Lily did not attend the trial. She had no need to see that woman's face ever again. Vanessa Romano was cast out by her family after the scandal. Her father, ashamed of her actions, sent her abroad and forbade her return for 5 years. Crystal Hayes was banned from all events of the underground elite, becoming a nobody, a nothing, as if she had never existed. And Lily finally lived the life she deserved. She used part of the money Marcus gave her to open a small library in downtown Portland, and named it the Brave Little Sparrow Library. It was not large or luxurious, just 2 modest rooms renovated with donated shelves full of books, a reading corner with soft chairs, and a small table with colored paper where children could fold origami. The library was free for everyone, especially poor children, orphans, and children who had been abused like she once was. Emma was the first visitor, running into the library with shining eyes and throwing her arms around Lily, calling her "my Lily." Marcus changed too. He was still a Mafia boss, still cold and dangerous to his enemies. But with Lily, he was a completely different man. He smiled more, spoke more, and every evening he sat listening as Lily read books aloud, his gray eyes gentle as they watched her like she was his entire world. In his office, on the wall behind his desk, he framed the book, The Brave Little Sparrow, beside a photograph of Sophia, and next to it a new photograph. Lily laughing, her black hair lifted by the wind, her eyes bright as stars. And then, exactly 6 months after the day they met on the beach in Portland, Marcus took Lily back there. The beach was the same, waves rolling in, the Atlantic wind still biting cold, but this time 20 people stood waiting for them. Vincent, Emma, Maria, and their closest loved ones. Lily wore a simple white dress, barefoot on the sand, holding the book and a small bouquet of wildflowers from the garden behind the mansion. Marcus was barefoot too, in gray linen trousers and a white shirt, and for the first time he carried no gun. They stood facing each other with waves breaking at their feet, and the judge asked if they wished to say anything. Marcus held Lily's hands, looked into her eyes, and said, "Lily Morgan, I lived in darkness for 10 years. I thought I would die in that darkness. Then you appeared, chasing a book across the beach like a madwoman, and you pulled me back from the abyss. I do not deserve you, but I will spend my entire life trying to become a man who does." Lily cried, tears on her cheeks while her lips smiled. "Marcus Blackwood," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You thought you were a monster, but you saved me. You believed me when no one else did. You loved me when I thought I was unlovable. I will stay by your side, in darkness or in light, in storms or in peace, forever." They exchanged rings, simple gold bands without diamonds, because Lily said she did not need diamonds. She only needed him. The judge declared them husband and wife, and Marcus kissed Lily amid the sound of waves, the applause of loved ones, and the vast blue sky of Portland. Lily pressed the book to her chest, looked up at the sky, and whispered, "Daddy, I have flown far now." Two lost souls found each other on a beach. A little sparrow who thought she would never fly, and a lonely wolf who thought he would never know love. They proved that wounds do not define us, the past does not imprison us, and love can bloom in the darkest places, because the greatest gift in life is not being chosen by someone, but being seen for who you truly are, with every scar and every wound, and still being loved completely. And the brave little sparrow, at last, found her sky. If this story touched your heart, please like and share this video with those you love. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you do not miss our daily emotional stories. How did this story make you feel? Have you ever faced hardships in life and overcome them? Please share your thoughts with us in the comments below. We would truly love to hear what is in your heart. Wishing everyone watching this video good health, a joyful life, and peace every day. Thank you for being with us. Goodbye and see you again in the next video.